Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to continue on with this week's theme, the mid-year checkpoint. We're about halfway, well, we're a little past halfway into the year, and I'm curious what some of y'all's favorite music has been of the year so far. Today we're going to check out something from Protest the Hero. This music video came out last month, but the album that it comes from will be released this Friday in just 3 days. The album's going to be called Within. This track is called Mouthpiece. Let's dive in, see what Protest the Hero has in store for us today. Got a lot of Dio in the vocals there. This melodic guitar work over here. Very precise, and there's such a good amount of space between the notes. The bass is getting in on the technicality. Dude, the drum work here. Yeah. Lots of great energy. I mean, right from the start, too, but building into the finale. Jeez. I mean, this is Protest the Hero. I kind of already knew what I was coming in store for, what I was in store for coming into this. The technical playing from everyone, the drums in here are so infectious. The guitar work is incredible, and I love the high fidelity production going on in all of this too. The bass, phenomenal. I love how it doesn't just sit on pedal tones either. It gets into the same technicalities that the guitars do. There's some expanded instrumentation. I think I heard a violin there about a minute until the end in that quieter section, but like a bar after I thought I heard it, the guitar continued on with that solo. So I'm thinking maybe it was just the guitar and something about it sounded kind of violinish. Violinish? Not a word. But yeah, it's just like every bit of this is high energy, technical. Even when I listen to like the vocal stuff, not only is the wide range of things happening there impressive, but also some of the runs, the quick rhythmic devices in the vocal parts is equally as impressive as everything else going on. So high intensity, complex, and just fun to listen to. Not a single part in this that feels, I don't know, too heavy. It's certainly an angry song, whether it's the vocals belting or the guitars just being gnarly or the drums being aggressive. It's everything in this is just angry. I would not be surprised if the lyrics ended up being very angry, though Protest the Hero. There's been a couple times in the past where I found that their musical themes and lyrical themes didn't quite line up, or at least my interpretation of the musical themes didn't line up with the lyrical ones. They certainly have a style of music. So maybe I shouldn't expect the lyrics to be a specific way, but that would be where I would want them to go given what I understood out of the music. With that said, dude, these guitars, they are so tight. It's the speed, it's the precision, it's the space between the notes, even on the faster hits. Everything about it is just electrifying. Dun 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 dun, and it's just like everything is so perfectly played. So much rehearsal went into each of these riffs, and like I said, it's also the spaciousness too on those faster runs. I don't know if it's something that the guitarists are doing because it's really fast, or if it's something the engineer does going in after the fact and just putting in a little bit of extra space between each of them to make them all punch, to make them all hit. Each specific note is heard in these runs. They're not muted, but they're certainly cut down in length. It just sounds phenomenal. And that extra space allows the bass to come through too, through the gaps a little bit, because I feel like the bass just isn't quite as prominent in the mix as the guitars, but I could still clearly hear it in places and hear that it was shifting notes just as often as the guitar was in a lot of these sections. The drums being a bit more on the melodic side, particularly in the verse, and still keeping that metronome style, keeping the backbeat through, but also playing along with the ever shifting rhythmic devices in the guitar is just such a great way to embellish and further strengthen those riffs that the guitar is laying into. And of course, drums are already short and punchy sounds to begin with. So pairing them with the guitar riff, you're just going to make the guitar riff sound thinner and punchier. And it's just, dude, it's such a good combination of everything. And it sounds great against the vocals, just sort of jumping back and forth between holding out these longer notes and moving through quicker passages as well. And you get this cool back and forth between the instrumentation and the vocals throughout this opening verse. I think a lot of that just works so well. And to kick the song off like that is just an immediate almost reminder of like, dude, we're Protest the Hero. We're good at what we do, and we're going to take you for a ride. You get a little bit of a buildup as the song swells in. We got this nice crescendo of like some guitar feedback and stuff. It brings the song up to speed in like 3 seconds, and then bam, you're into it. The track is just nonstop from that point on. So yeah, just from the start, I knew I was in for a good time. Now, kind of bouncing away from that, looking more specifically at the vocals, there's still something about this vocalist that stands out to me, dude. His cleans have such vibrato and width too. I think part of this is the layering of the vocals. Very rarely do I hear just one single vocal, and oftentimes there will be harmonies on the backing tracks as well. But between the size and the production of it all, it always feels like Dio to me. I feel like I bring this up every time we have Protest the Hero on. I'm still kind of mixed on it. There's parts of it where I'm like, yeah, dude, that sound is just perfect for this. But also this kind of sits in like a progressive something correlated. There's certainly aspects in here that feel very post-hardcore, aspects that feel metalcore, but they also are beginning to push into just a general progressive metal sound, sort of similar to Between the Buried and Me. Which I think is interesting because I'm pretty sure Between the Buried and Me also started in the progressive metalcore area, and they've shifted their sound to who they are now. But there's lots of this sound instrumentally that the vocals feel a little anachronistic too, because this sort of wide vibrato belting sound was very common within heavy metal, and that kind of got brought into folk metal, but the punk adjacent stuff never really went in this direction. And so hearing post-hardcore, metalcore adjacent areas with these vocals is very unique to my ears. And I don't think they're bad per se. In fact, some places I think they're really powerful. Having that vibrato and that width really sells some of these moments. But it is something I think I still need to attune my ears to become more familiar with. And I think maybe this weekend I'm just going to check out some Protest the Hero, unless somebody has, protest that and wants me to check out the album for an album review or something. I guess I'll hold off on it. But I haven't heard a whole album from them ever, despite the fact that I've enjoyed every song y'all have shown me. So this might be my first time through, and that might be a good time to adjust to this combination of sounds. But there are certainly some places in here where I feel like, my gut's telling me, dude, if you just had a more traditional, shouting sound instead of this wide vibrato, it'd sound more natural. But again, I think a lot of that is my biases and growing up within a similar sound of music with a very different vocal style tied to them. But having that in places, it really affords some strong power and strength in portions of this track that absolutely elevates what the instrumentals are doing. But then there's also the low growl, which is just incredible. And we have the sort of shouted, compressed cleans towards the end of the track that I would more associate with this style of music that I found he just kind of slips into those really easily too. It's just a lot of variety coming from the vocalist, and I'm loving it. And there seems to be a keen understanding of what each section of this track needs from the vocalist and what they decide to present to it, giving it variety and contrast and diversity throughout, while making sure that every section is as impactful as he thinks it needs to be. It's really well done, and I think it pairs well with the drumming variety. Just on the concept of variety itself, the drums are just never the same throughout. The guitars and bass are a nice glue that hold everything together. A nice familiarity throughout this track, as a lot of the riffs kind of have a familiar sound to them, familiar direction, and focus on this push and pull idea, such as that dun 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 dun. We have the one sound that we're familiar with, just this pedal tone, and then the quick movement, and then back to a pedal tone, push and pull. We have this A to B section. So a lot of the riffs are based around that. There's familiarity to that. The drums and the vocals, though, they do whatever they want. And I think they're given that affordance by the more familiar foundational roles that the guitars play. We also have, as we push into the end of the track, a nice dip down in energy after almost three and a half minutes of constant energy and direction. We have a nice moment to bring the energy down a little bit. I thought this was well needed, plus it gave us a nice place to show off some lighter vocals. And again, I still think I heard a violin in there. If not, it was a guitar, and we still got a really cool guitar solo out of this. So I enjoyed that, and it allowed the end of the track to really punch up and feel impactful, despite, honestly, I think it's pretty much the same as everything else. But coming off of the reaction, my first thought, and the first one I vocalized, was, dude, that ending hit. I mean, it was so impactful, so peak in energy. And yet I don't think it really went anywhere the rest of the track didn't. It's just that by sheer contrast, playing it so close to this lower energy section, that it feels more impactful through sheer dynamics. Yeah, absolutely great way to wrap that up. And this track is just, like I said, it's energy all the way through. So sick riffs, crazy drumming, variety on vocals, got that double V, vocal variety, and just sick and palatably complex throughout. While there is some crazy drumming in here and some crazy guitar and bass work, it never really gets to the point where it's overbearing. The track is digestible from beginning to end. And I think part of that is due to the fact that it's consistently in 4/4. We don't really have any weird time signatures in here, even if rhythmically it feels a little jagged at times. And so it is digestibly complex. And I always dig bands that can find that medium point in their writing. Let's dive into some lyrics on this one and see what Protest the Hero is singing about today. All right. So this track is about being told you must take one of two sides and finding that you don't really gravitate towards either of them. And then later to find out that there weren't two sides at all anyways. Just one group that has the illusion of two sides, neither of which cared what you picked anyways. The first stanza says, when caught between the devil and the deep blue sea, you won't find me anywhere within that binary. There's no virtue, no free will, no God that will lift me from this dying awake. That's wild, dude. A dying awake. He basically says he sees no way out of this duality, though, this binary choice. Later on, it says, victor or vanquished suffer the same fate. I do not intend to bear witness or participate. It says, of the two sides, doesn't matter. They're the same. And I'm not going to be a part of this system. I love this. I think it's a chorus or maybe a pre-chorus. Says, suffer impending doom regardless of vantage. Perspectives are formed and carefully managed. We're treating the illness, ignoring the source. The water is poisoned. We drank it by force. Yeah, dude. Basically says that there are problems and people are posing solutions and we're enacting those solutions, but we're treating symptoms. We're not actually getting rid of the thing that gets rid of the symptom. It'd be like if you have, I don't know, bronchitis or something, and you have an infection in your body. You need to take antibacterial, or antibiotics. Sorry, same kind of thing. But you need to take antibiotics to get rid of the bacteria in your system. But instead, all you're taking is cough medicine. You're getting rid of your cough. Sure, you seem better, but the bacteria is still going to spread through your body. It needs to be stopped. He says, we're not actually treating the problem, the source. We're just getting rid of the symptoms. We're making it look like things are better without actually making things better. He says, and continuing on from this idea of sickness, says the water is poisoned. So instead of actually fixing things, we're actually making it worse. Going along with this illness idea, instead of taking medicine, we're taking something that is actively making our body worse, poison. But we don't want to. We're drinking it by force. Exterior forces, exterior people, ideas, they're the ones that tell us we need to be doing this, whether we want to or not. All of this ties up at the end rather neatly. Where is this? Here it is. The penultimate stanza. There's powerful voices screaming culture war, culture war. The powerful voices that make you feel powerless, but you're just ill-informed. Powerful voices sowing division. Anything that divides us should burn first. Those exterior forces that are making us drink this poisoned water, they're the two sides. The one that sits above that, or maybe just the illusion of the two, however you want to view it. They don't care what side you pick as long as you pick a side. Because it's easier to divide people, or it's easier to control divided people. So if you have powerful voices that sow division, that tell you there's a culture war and you must pick a side, and then you do, well, now the collective is weaker. How many lines of division can they draw between us? How long does it take until we're isolated? I say this many times, the Latin phrase defendant numerus, strength in numbers. The powerful people that our narrator is referring to understands that the easiest way to reduce power is to reduce numbers. Draw lines of division, place people on opposite sides. The final stanza of this track says, endure the culture war. We are too distracted to identify the enemy. You can sit across the aisle, but there's manufactured hate. We don't actually all hate each other. I think this was something that was really interesting with the World Cup, is that if you've been paying attention to politics on the world stage at all lately, America is not well liked these days. And I found that a recurring statement during the US's hosting of the World Cup was that many people came over to the United States and found that Americans actually were generally pretty cool. Not like we were awesome, but just chill. Easy to talk to, always starting up conversation, very friendly in general. I think these are stereotypes that American people have had for a long time. But something that was probably forgotten given the politics of America as a nation rather than of a people. And this idea of manufactured hate is really interesting. Lines have been drawn to separate people, but when you actually walk across that line and meet the people on the other side, you don't see the straw men of them anymore. You actually get to find the humanity there and find that really not that different. Now, I will completely say that some people are not the friendly person who's not a straw man, who's generally not the same as what you have been told they are. There are certainly some people who are not great, 100%. But I do find that generally more often than not, people are cool. And that the hate that you have for someone else because of who they are, because of what they think, because of who you've been told they represent, it's all manufactured. And that's what this song is saying. The problem is not the people. It's those in power, those who have the power to sow dissent, to sow division. And when you are divided, you feel powerless because you're just one person. What is one person to do in the face of all of this, in the face of billions of dollars of campaigns? The answer is always camaraderie. It's always community. It's people. I don't know if this song in particular feels that positive about things. It certainly seems to be a bit more dismissive of everything, but it does understand, as it says in the penultimate stanza, everything that divides us should burn first. We need to destroy everything that creates division. That way we can see what kind of power we actually have. It says all these conversations strangle us like weeds. We're not powerless, we're just a little bit naive. We've been taken advantage of. Some of us have seen through that, some of us haven't. Some of us know it and still fall for the conversation, the what would you call it? Oh, the propaganda, I suppose, would be accurate word. We need to stop treating the illness. We need to find the source and get rid of that. The source is usually a bit higher than our neighbors, people across the street, people in another city or another state or another country. I think this track does a really great job of being timeless. It is certainly about, especially as Protest the Hero is a US band, and listening to some of their older tracks over the years, they're fairly political with their thoughts too. But what I love about this track is that we've listened to some songs from other bands that are very much today coded, politically coded for the 2020s. But this one doesn't. It's easy to draw the parallels with present day issues, but it's also something that can be seen into our past too. It's not just vague, but it's metaphorically open to interpretation. And I think that unlike many of the other tracks that we've checked out that are very critical of the political landscape of the 2020s, particularly in the US, but I mean, kind of also all over the, well, maybe not necessarily all over the world, but I see some of this in parts of Europe as well. I feel like some of those songs are going to age very poorly, whereas this one I think is going to age very gracefully and be one of those tracks that you listen to in 30 or 40 years and you're like, dang, dude. Well, hopefully you don't think that dang, this is still relevant, but as you know, we've checked out some tracks from the 80s and 90s, and my first thought is, wow, things are still like this today. And it doesn't really feel dated. I think this is going to be one of those tracks for the future. Well, fingers crossed, maybe it isn't, but if things haven't changed too much, it would be one of those that still feels timeless. And I think Protest the Hero really killed it with their specific choice of words and metaphor throughout this track, whereas other lyricists tend to be a bit more blunt about modern day issues, particularly set to this era. Anyways, these are my thoughts of Protest the Hero's Mouthpiece. Oh yeah, you know, themes, dude, everything lines up. This is an angry track, musically and lyrically. But what are your thoughts? Is there anything in here you'd like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Do you have your own take, perspective, or opinion on this? Let me know. Put all of that and anything else you'd like to into the comments section below. Above that, in the description box, is a link to Linktree. It'll take you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.